The worst part wasn't that he lied to me, it's that I believed him without hesitation. He wasn't nervous. He didn't shift in his seat like you'd expect. He wasn't avoiding eye contact. Nothing about him looked wrong. He just stood there, looked me straight in the eye, and broke down. Real tears, shaking voice, the kind of emotion you don't question in the moment. And in that moment, I felt something simple. Pity. I thought, there's no way this guy is lying, but I was wrong. 2 days later, I found out he had given me his brother's identity. And he didn't hesitate. He didn't slip. He didn't panic. He performed it like it was real. That moment stayed with me. Because I didn't miss the lie. I missed how the lie was built. And once you see that, you stop trusting what people say at face value. You start noticing something else entirely. How much mental effort it takes to hold their story together. Telling the truth is easy. You remember something, and you say it. But lying is not simple. It's construction. You have to build a version of events that fits while remembering what you already said, while watching how the other person is reacting, while making sure nothing contradicts itself, and while suppressing what actually happened. That's not communication. That's mental overload. And overload always shows itself somewhere. Not in dramatic ways, in structure. Most people never see it because they ask the wrong questions. Simple questions, expected questions, questions people are already prepared for. But when you change the structure of the question, you change the pressure. And pressure reveals what preparation hides. Start here. Walk me through the 30 minutes before that happened, step by step. Most people don't realize what this does. Liars don't build timelines. They build moments. So they go straight to what feels important, the main event. A truthful answer often sounds something like, I was finishing a report, then my phone rang. Then I stopped for coffee on the way. Nothing dramatic, just a sequence of ordinary moments. A constructed answer tends to sound different. Nothing really happened before that. I just got there. One moves through time, the other skips it. But truth doesn't move like that. Truth is messy. It has small details that don't feel important at the time, but hold everything together. What you were doing before it happened, where you were standing, what you were thinking about, what didn't stand out at all. A real memory moves through that naturally, but a constructed one avoids it. You'll hear it if you listen closely. I was just doing normal stuff, and then nothing really happened before that. So anyway, I was there. That's not a story. That's a shortcut. And shortcuts only exist when someone is trying to move you past something. But even that isn't always enough, because some people can still hold the structure at that level. So you shift something deeper. In that moment you just described, what could you hear in the background? Now you're not asking for facts anymore. You're asking for perception. And perception is harder to fake than memory. A real moment has texture, sound, distance, background noise you didn't even notice at the time. Ask someone what they could hear in that moment. A truthful answer might sound like, the TV was on somewhere in the house, and I remember a dog barking outside. Nothing important, just details that happened to be there. A constructed answer often sounds more like, I don't know, just normal sounds. One feels remembered, the other feels assembled, but a constructed story is flat. It exists in outline form. So when you ask for sensory detail, the mind has to build something that wasn't originally there. And that's where strain shows. They pause, they repeat the question, they get irritated, or they give you something empty. Just normal sounds. That emptiness isn't a detail, it's strain trying to stay controlled. And if the story is still holding, there's one final pressure point: reality itself. If I checked logs, cameras, or records from that time, is there anything that wouldn't match what you just said? You don't need evidence. You just introduce the possibility of it. And that changes the direction of thinking immediately. They're no longer recalling. They're simulating consequences. And that's where certainty starts to shift. You hear it in the language. I'm pretty sure, to the best of my memory, I might be off. I think that's right, but that's not confidence. That's someone negotiating with uncertainty. trying to keep a version of events stable under pressure. And the strange thing is, when I look back at that conversation later, he had actually failed all three. Not obviously, structurally. He skipped the timeline. He couldn't hold sensory detail. And the moment verification entered the picture, his certainty changed. I just didn't see it at the time, because I was listening to the emotion, not the structure. And this is what most people misunderstand. You're not detecting lies directly. You're detecting strain. Because truth doesn't need support, it holds itself. But lies require maintenance, and maintenance is where cracks form. But even that isn't really the point. Because this isn't about catching people. It's not about exposing anyone. It's about understanding something most people never notice. Lies don't usually look fake. They look stable until pressure enters the system. And when that pressure hits, structure matters more than story. Because the real mistake isn't trusting people who lie. It's believing that lies always look like lies. Once you understand that, you stop watching faces. You start watching structure, how stories are built, how they hold together, how they shift when pressure increases. And suddenly, you're not reacting to people anymore. You're reading patterns. So the next time someone tells you something important, don't look for nervousness. Don't look for emotion. Look for strain. Because truth doesn't need construction, it just exists. And once you see that difference clearly, you don't go back to the way you used to see people.